You can vote, but most of us, we're not effective in voting because fear
Yes, indeed. Of course, Brother Takuna, you can't help but to have like a nicer background than that. That was when we were at the New Iberia Parish, New Iberia Courthouse, when we had our big time rally with trying to say get rid of Louis Ackel, and we had like a good turnout, and so many people spoke, and it was really impressive. It was really impressive. So our topic is how much more integration can the black community bear? Can the black community bear? And let's dig right up into it. When you're talking about integration, you're actually saying that we have really lost the mark.
Yes. Well, first let me say I thank you for inviting me to have a discussion, on the AOC Open Channel, and let me also place a disclaimer that I am not appearing on Acadiana Open Channel.
Oh, yeah.
But in my mind, I'm appearing on Affordable Open Channel.
That's correct.
I think that the absurdity of a federally funded program renamed AOC, and the acronym stands for Acadian Open Channel, is an insult to black people. And it's part of the reason why we asked the question, how much more integration can the black community bear? Because this kind of abuse of our presence is a capital punishment, for us, and it destroys our community and our sense of purpose and dignity. But the topic, how much more integration can the black community bear, was the center of attention given to a panel discussion that was recently held in D.C., Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And we explored that topic with several, we believe, masterminds that were present there, including Sister Ava from the Nation of Islam.
Yes.
So the topic, how much more integration can the black community bear? That question brings us to ultimately all the issues that we bring about in our community. Mm-hmm. When we talk about police brutality, we have to ask that question.
Yes.
When we talk about the systematic racism in the school system, we have to ask that question. When we talk about our economic conditions, we have to ask that question. When we talk about the overall progress of black people, that's a relevant question. And when we get a real answer to that relevant question, then I think that our focus and our energies and our planning is going to be quite different. But first of all, we got to get black folks to want to seriously ask that question and then dwell within some serious responses in terms of an answer.
And with your conviction and everything that I know about you, I know that not only do you walk the walk, but you also talk it. It's imperative that when I say our young people, they have to be placed aside and put into some type of schooling with people that love and care about them so that they could be able to handle things the way that we should handle things. I know I automatically teach my grandkids, my children, I want your insurance right up in the council. I want insurance, picture ID, and I do like a little practice drill with them. Hands up and stuff, because I have a fear that every time they go out somewhere that something is going to happen. I was stopped by police. Well, I've been stopped by several police officers, but one of the last time I got stopped by one of them, they claim I had ran a stop sign. Well, I didn't run no stop sign. So when she say, get your insurance out and everything like that, well, I had my insurance card and I just walk up, with my hands out, like saying, okay, look, hands out. I kind of got this right up in here. And she wanted me to put my fingerprint on a ticket because I refused to sign the ticket. Well, ma'am, I'm not going to put no fingerprint on a ticket, but we're going to have to bring you to jail. Bring me to jail for what? Then she gets up and she calls her superior. He comes out. If you don't put your fingerprint on here, then we're going to have to go and bring you to jail. Well, all right, but could I call somebody to go and pick up my car? No, we're going to have a record. So, all right, it's a no-win situation there. But y'all had six police officers for one lady like myself who was relatively nice to them at that particular time. And so it just goes to show you, though I know I could handle myself, I'm weary of children, grandchildren, and of course the other young men and women in our community.
And sister, those kinds of situations can only be addressed when we work with a very serious consciousness and understanding that we must be about nation building. And everything and anything that we do, all the efforts that we do, that we conduct in the community, if our bottom line is not about nation building, we're simply wasting time. We have to create our own institutions. We have to create an environment that's going to cultivate the right kind of thoughts in our children's head. We need to understand the full effects of slavery and its present day of impact on us, including our elders, especially our elders in many cases. So the problems that we see in our community is not disconnected from that. So the only way that we're going to be able to address that is to understand that it was institutions created to create the mess in us. And we are going to have to be about nation building to build institutions to reverse that process. Now that's a mouthful for many of us who don't fully understand. But let me share this with you, sister, that most of us don't understand racism because we deal with racism as though we're dealing with an individual. But when you're dealing with racism, what you're dealing with on the end of the day is some form of expression of white supremacy. If you don't understand the concept of white supremacy, it is impossible for you to understand what racism is. White supremacy is not, I repeat again, white supremacy is not just an individual. White supremacy is a system. Racism is not necessarily an individual, but racism is a system that exists in the form of white supremacists that racist individuals thrive in.
That's right.
So I am pretty much fed up with the conversation that many of us engage in these meetings relative to the police terror and the police brutality in our community, when the argument seems to be focused on, well, there are some good police officers.
Yeah.
Sister, listen. Whew. No intelligent person in the black community would deny that there aren't good police officers in the community. That's right. We believe that there are good people in all aspects of society. But when you have a good person or a good police officer that is wrapped up and controlled by a system of white supremacy, then the racist individuals that also belong to that system thrive in that system. So therefore, they dictate what's in that system. And good persons who are caught up into that, then they are either silenced, they are neutralized, or they are made to be in the background where they're totally ineffective. So good people in a racist system is no value to us unless they are fighting the system of white supremacy. So I'm tired of hearing about there are good people, good police officers. And just recently, I'm not sure whether she was on this show or whether it was on another program, but I understand recently about the local community, public relations with the community and the police officer. And then a couple of days later, some of the police officers that was at the so-called community public relation gathering were the ones involved, or at least some of them were involved in actually pulling out a gun on the daughter and the granddaughter of one of the persons that were there. Yeah. So here we have, again, good police officers, but their behavior dictated by a racist system. Yes. And a system that is fueled by white supremacy. So what good does that do us? Why do we say, and we think that it does us good when we come out publicly and say that the police officers are our friends? Individual police officers may be your friend, but the system of the police department as it is not the friend of black people, because it runs and functions off of the mind of white supremacy. And those racist individuals that belongs to that white supremacist system thrive, and therefore good officers are not seen or allowed to act in a good way.
Ooh, that's a mouthful. Carly, with Brother Takuna, we're going to go to the caller. Carly, you have a question or comment?
Greetings, my sister, and greetings to you, Brother Takuna. Sister, can you hear me pretty good?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you real good.
Greetings, brother.
Okay, brother, it's great to have you on. And first, I want to say it's an honor to have you on. After studying you for so many years, I'm really starting to get it. And sometimes it takes a long time for some of us brothers to grasp over what other brothers think.
Yes,
and we have people in the community who want to shun that type of talk. But you know what? All the other formulas are failing. Brother, I heard in the city of New Iberia, a couple of pastors have some good intention calling for a so-called peace walk to stop the violence. I see in Lafayette, every time there's a killing, you see people calling for these prayer vigils and peace walks. While prayer is good and these things are okay, but look, they're not even trying to get to the crux of the problem, Brother Takuna. So I'm going to go with my two-part question and get your comment, because the other one is kind of interrelated to what I'm trying to say, and I don't want to be sounding too convoluted. There got to be a great disconnect with our youth, with the elders of the community, and culturally, and this is why a lot of these things are happening. That's why we so easily going to pick up a gun, and we're going to deal with each other in a very horrible way. So then we got others saying there's black-on-black crime, but people still not getting it. It's not so much black-on-black crime. It's the disconnect that we have. If we know as a culturally where we come from, I don't think we would be doing that. And I think if we were properly educated and taught, we would not be doing that, Brother Takuna. And the issue of us praising a whole group of people, technically, or like someone will say, the Cajun Nation or the Cajun Navy, praising that mindset is part of the problem, because we don't see no value in ourselves, because everything else is okay. Everything other than being black or African is not okay. So that's the problem, Takuna. And I want you to speak to that, because you know what? There's not enough time for a brother like you to explain to our brothers and sisters, and even the so-called preachers out there, what is really going on. And I think they should have looked at their formula, Brother Takuna. It's not working. Why some of them try to put your formula down of speaking the truth, their formula hasn't been working. So that's why we have the so-called black-on-black crime. That's all I have to say, my brother. Thank you.
And Brother Takuna, before you say anything, just like with what Brother Jay had mentioned about the black-on-black crime, there's Vietnamese on Vietnamese crime, and you taught us that. There's white folks on white folks crime. There's Asian on Asian crime. So to just say it's isolated, no. It's like that within your community, within all of our community.
Yes, and I think that term itself, black-on-black crime, is in itself a myth.
Okay.
From the standpoint that, and it's a relevant thing we need to deal with, but to use the black-on-black crime phrase as is being used does not tell the whole story. For instance, I don't believe that's black-on-black crime. There is black-on-black Negro, Negro-on-black crime. There is black on the N-word crime. You got black on mulatto crime. You got black, but you see, because true black people don't act that way.
That's right.
True black people reach a level of civilization. Yes. So we have been made other than ourselves. So the consequences of what we see in our community goes back to what the caller said. When we have a proper acceptance of ourselves, a historical and culture base of ourselves, then our whole perspective of each other changes. Our whole activity changes. So we need to understand that when we start talking about black-on-black crime. Now, the first part of the question, the brother spoke to the some of the pastors in the community are religious head. Well, historically, we need to understand that religion was never given to us to have us have a proper understanding of God, or to catch a hissy fit over somebody they call Jesus and give us a white man. That was never designed to have us have a proper understanding or proper relationship with a very valuable person. So we need to first make that a reality in our own minds. Secondly, we need to see that the church has always been used as a form of sedative or Novocaine for us. I think Malcolm said it best when he said that, our understanding of the church, or our understanding of problems, and when white folks get upset with progressive black people, they often bring in religion. Why? Because religion serves as Novocaine. When you go to the dentist, the first thing he's going to do, he's going to shoot some type of Novocaine or some type of painkiller in your mouth. He doesn't cure anything.
Right.
What he does, he puts you in a state so that you can suffer peacefully.
Yes.
So this is what the church does. And most of the churches, I think, serves definitely as the height of hypocrisy when it comes to dealing with the value of black life in the black community. Now, this is the problem that I'm having with the church.
Okay.
I've gone to many vigils, and I've seen different denominations represented at those vigils.
Yes, sir.
But you know what is lacking, sister? And you know what is shameful for us to admit to ourselves and to the reality of what's going on? I see a host of ministers from all different denominations when there is so-called a black-on-black crime. However, when there's a killing between a police officer and a black person, there is no representation from the church. Why? Because they do not want to put themselves in the path of having to deal with the white supremacist system of the police department.
Right.
So whenever they come to our community, they want to walk around the block. You can walk around the block till the bottom of your shoes fall, unless you deal realistically with the economic conditions in our community, deal with the spiritual absence of real understanding of God in our community. You will not change the minds or the condition of our people. So here we are. We have churches of many different denominations. Some walk around the block for a month. Some hoop and holler on Sunday. Some send you to some spooky heaven with the white Jesus. Some give you the Bible, and they give you sections of the Bible with a whole host of emotionalism, and then they do nothing. There is no connection between God and our economics. There's no connection between God and our cultural worth. There is no connection between God and our historical reality. Look, let me give you a hard, realistic point of interest right now in this community. As much as we need black schools, we just had another school that's historically was represented as a black school, Immaculate Heart.
Yes.
Now, Immaculate Heart is located literally feet away from the Catholic Church, Immaculate Heart.
Yes.
Now, Immaculate Heart closes after 87 years of being servicing the black community in terms of education. Now, here you have this condition where supposedly $150,000 was needed to maintain the school and to have this school revived and to pay teachers and to do the kind of things that is necessary to keep the school alive. The church is located right next to the school. The school fails. The church thrives. The church puts in nearly 15 to 18,000 a week from collection coming from the black community. They have 3 masses on Sundays. This is a week. Now, what happens when the school dies? You find out that the revenue coming from the church, coming from the black community, coming from our pockets, coming from people that love and say they love Jesus and all involved into the church emotionally, doesn't even understand the reality of the economic condition that the church is separate from the school. So therefore, no matter how much they attend church, how much they fill the collection, their own monies could not go toward educating their own children. Because the economic system of the Catholic Church is separate, and therefore the monies that goes into collection must go first to the bishop office, and that bishop must determine for himself as to what's worth is coming back to the community in terms of finances. That's insanity. There is no connection between God and your economics. You go to, when we go put monies in St. Anthony Church, when we go put monies in Queen of Peace Church, that money goes to the bishop. The people who actually create the economic fund do not have full control over those funds in order to do for themselves. What kind of God are you serving that's going to keep you economically poor, spiritually vacillating from the mouth, and you have no economic reality to your contribution to the church? No relationship to your God. See, these are hard things that we don't want to see. These are hard things that we are taught in slavery, and all we need to do is have Jesus. But you can't go to the light company on the end of the month and say, look, I can't pay my bill today. I gave it to Jesus. They're going to cut your lights off. They're going to cut your water off. They're going to cut your gas off. You can't give nothing to Jesus in an economic system that demands that you have hard currency.
I can't ask pastor for no money.
No, you can't ask pastor for no money, because pastor himself is under a blind sense of obedience in the Catholic Church. So whatever bishop says, this is what goes. So now, this is a hard reality. So we have to ask the question, how much more integration can the black community bear? At least under integration, under the unjust laws of segregation, that we were forced to act more normal. Under the unjust laws of segregation, we created our own churches. We created our own businesses. We created our own food places. We had our own clinics. We had our own theaters. We had a system of economics that was crude and you know, in many incidents, but it was a system of economics that we depended on and worked for us under the unjust laws of segregation. Now, under the laws of integration, we've given it all up because our mindset provided us the misperception to think that somehow that if we integrated with white folks, that was our ladder of elevation. And that kind of thinking, sister, has been perpetuated in our community for years, and today integration has been seen as a modern-day tool to keep us in that condition. First, you had some white folks rejected integration not because they didn't want us to integrate with them, they didn't want us to integrate and learn their values and learn our self-worth. However, they have learned to use the whole concept of integration as an effective tool to maintain control over us. So they've seen under integration, we don't have what is so-called a black community. We don't have a so-called professional group. Listen, take any group, sister, any group of our people that you can speak of in terms of a professional group of people. Let's talk about the doctors. The doctors are catching more hell than some of the people on welfare. You get people at McDonald's are catching more hell from integration than just as much as the people at Wendy's and some of these other fast food places. You got professional lawyers who have the same kind of issues. You got people with other forms of professions that cannot get work because if they buck the system of white supremacy, they starve economically. So therefore, under integration, we do not depend on ourselves anymore. We depend upon a very system that is designed to make sure that there is no real elevation. And listen, they already know, as long as there is no sound economic base in the black community, everything else we do is just talk. Everything we do must be done to understand this reality so that we can be serious about nation building, which means we got to make some sacrifices. It is not education, sister, when you teach black children that a whole lot of black folks died for us to learn how to read and write. And don't do two things. One, you don't teach them that you gave the world writing, math, science, everything that the world marvels at right now came from you. And the second thing is that you don't teach your people, that black people before you came and died for you to have the right to read, without making the same kind of commitment today, given the reality of what's happening in the educational system, to make the same kind of commitment today and say, as an elder, I'm willing to die to control what you read and what you write. Because today, we know what we can learn, we can read and we can write, but we don't know what to read and we don't know what to write. So therefore, we are graduating, in many cases, very sharp young black men and women who are really professional idiots when it comes to their own culture and their history. And I've talked with many of them on college campus. I've talked with many of them right here at UL, and many of them are sincere, but they have no knowledge of themselves at all. Many of them are capable of doing anything in terms of a profession. They have the skills, but they have no knowledge of themselves. So therefore, they're not about nation building. They're about trying to hook up into the system of white supremacy and trying to get a good job.
Ooh, Brother Takuna, it seems like we just gonna have to do like a part 2, part 3, part 4, and maybe this could be some of the educational process that learning tools that they would use, particularly bringing things into our community, such as your book, Black I Am, Cajun I'm Not, which is a really, really good book, and I think it should be in every person household because it breaks it down for them. It helps them to understand. And you really triggered something when you stated to me about, okay, you was going to do this disclaimer, but we're here at a AOC Affordable Open Channel. But check this out: when this beautiful building, when they done the dedication of this beautiful building, myself and my grandbaby, we were here and we were the one that was protesting because it's a Rosa Parks building, but then Rosa Parks family received $1,500 to give the okay to do the dedication. The guy who was the artist received $80-something thousand. So what part did they miss? And try to break it off on us. And then when I mentioned, like what Brother Ali would say, well, how many contractors there were? There was not one black contractor that helped to build the building. However, there was a subcontractor, but hell, the contractor is the one that's really making a decision and really getting the money. So I love it when you mention that. Another thing when you had spoke about was that the closing of our church, but they could pay those church pedophiles. They could pay millions of dollars out of some secret fund, but couldn't use any of that money to pay to keep the school open.
Well, sister, it's the will to do for us is not there by the system of white supremacy, and for us to continue to think that it is, it's really on us now.
Okay.
We have all the skills, we have all the tools we need, other than the knowledge of ourselves, in order to do something for ourselves. We are going to be in a complete open war with many black folks in this community who call themselves Catholic if you talk openly, as I am now, about the Catholic Church. But you see, I'm not talking about what I heard.
Right.
I was born in the Catholic Church. I work in the Catholic Church. This is part of my experience, and I have seen the workings of it. And I know that in the Catholic Church, even though there are some good things, in the Catholic Church, the control is such that black folks are going to always be spiritually shaped into always perceiving the world from a perspective that is not healthy toward nation building. They will never commit outside the framework or the boundaries of what they believe is to be Catholic. Much of what we do as a people, not only in the Catholic Church, but in most of our religious orders, we just simply call them black churches. but there are black churches that are actually living out of a European value system. That's why we celebrate the same holidays as the European. We still get crazy with Christmas and Halloween and Thanksgiving and Easter. We don't do the historical research to understand what spiritual value and truth does that have to the black mind, to the black psychic, to the black history, to the black culture. And we would see that if we understood and accepted ourselves, not only have we been, our religion has been taken away, our language has been taken away from us, from Africa, but even the foods that we eat. So we as a people are nurturing on an improper diet, which affects our psyche, which affects our growth. Now, what does this got to do with the caller's question in terms of our condition and and the violence in our community, the so-called black-on-black violence? Well, listen. You got foods that can make you calm, and you got foods that can make you angry. You got foods that can make you fat, and you got foods that can make you lose weight. We have a diet that goes contrary to our whole biochemical makeup.
Right.
So therefore, you can control much of the behavior in our community simply by seriously addressing the diet.
Damn.
You are what you eat. Mm-hmm. Many of us act the way we act because we on the type of food that does not provide us with the type of ability to allow our bodies to form as it should and to have the type of temperament that we should with one another. Part of that is because there is no education. There is no connection between our food and our psyche. There is no connection between our food and our God. We eat what we want. Mm-hmm. You see, we eat according to what the European dictate tells us was good to eat. Even today, his system is so corrupt that even foods that are supposed to be natural, he's messing with. Yeah. He's taking fruits from across the country, laying them with chemicals so that he can preserve the life of the food and then put them in the market. Yeah. You see, and we don't understand the connection or the holistic connection to our behavior, the food that we take, the religion that we believe in, the God that we serve. Listen, black folks today, if we seriously gave up the white man's God, all forms, not just the Catholic Church, all forms of the white man's God, at that moment we're free. Why do I say that? Because your world in which we live in is predicated on the God we serve. Your understanding of God is going to be the world in which you build. If you have a God with a limited understanding, a limited world, you live in a limited world. If you have a God that is confusing in your mind, then you live in a confused world. If you have a God that's a spook, you live in a spooky world. You know, if you have a God that is omnipotent, only in words, but you have no power within yourself, that's the kind of world that you build. Mm-hmm. Your world that you build is directly related to your understanding and your belief and whatever force you think created you. Whether you call that God Jesus, whether you call it Yahweh, whether you call it Jehovah, whether you call it Allah, if whatever your central understanding is of God, that's the kind of world you build. So when we give up the white man's God, our perception immediately begin to change. We begin to question everything in front of us, everything that we have done, and we begin to move about the earth differently. We begin to move about the earth questioning everything, not only questioning to complain, but we begin to move about the earth understanding that there has to be something better. And we go into a serious search for truth. We go into a serious transition in terms of our psychic, in terms of our dress, in terms of our names, in terms of our whole makeup in relationship to the world. Now, when a system based on white supremacy can control a people through the good works of the Bible and misrepresent that Bible to you and confine you to the parameters of some superficial reflections of the Bible, and don't even tell you you're in the Bible. Don't even tell you that the one they call Jesus is a blue-black Jesus. As you said on your previous show, I heard you say that that Jesus that they give us is that white submissive Jesus. Well, if they teach us the real Jesus, if we knew the real Jesus, if we knew the revolutionary mind of that Jesus, then we wouldn't be concerned about religion. We would be concerned about the principal teachings in which this black revolutionary left for the earth. You see, but unless, sister, we commit ourselves to nation building and then understand that nation building is like building a home. Let me explain that, because I know we don't have much time, so I want to give a metaphor that hopefully will stick in the minds of the viewing audience. Nation building is like building a home. A home must be built 3 times before it's ready for occupancy. Now, what do I mean by that? Anyone who knows about constructing a home must first be built in the mind or the vision of an individual or the contractor. The contractor must first build a home in his mind. He must have an idea. He must be driven by a vision. He must be driven by that vision, and that vision must be nurtured and cultivated until that vision or that idea becomes a blueprint. That's the second building. So it goes to the idea that a vision must first occur, and then that vision must be nurtured until it becomes a blueprint. Now, when it's built on the blueprint level, when you're building a home on the blueprint level, that's when you put your ideas in writing. Now you have a vision on a plan. Now you know how many rooms you want, how big the house is going to be. Now you have an idea in terms of how many skilled individuals and what kind of skilled individuals you need to assemble in order to make this vision a reality. Then once you have that in place, then you have to go to work with your workforce and the vision and all the materials that you need in order to build that home. Then once that home is built on that 3rd stage, then you're ready for occupancy. But now, if you're like the foolish carpenter who builds a house and he does not make any effort to study the foundation in which he's building on, he can use the best of skilled people. He can use the best of material. He can be the most cautious, the most meticulous builder. But if he builds a house over a thin layer of earth, and underneath that thin layer is quicksand, what he builds on that particular land will give way to the quicksand in a short period of time. What I'm saying, sister, is that when we build, we must build on a solid foundation. We cannot build under the concept of integration. Integration is a weak foundation for black people to build the economic, political, social, and spiritual system on. Integration is not designed to make you whole. Integration is quicksand under a facade of good soil, of top layer. But underneath is quicksand. Because as soon as you begin to thrive and to grow, you will fall prey to the quicksand, because the weight of your righteousness, the weight of your good, the weight of your economic efforts will soon give way to the quicksand, because it's not designed for you to have a strong foundation. So therefore, that's why we fight for integration. And one of the silly comments that I hear a lot from some of our elders mostly is that people who complain about integration never live through the period of segregation. Now, this is what some of our elders say.
That's not so.
You see, they say people who complain about integration have never lived through the period of segregation. Well, listen, having to dismiss integration does not say that we want to return back to segregated laws. That has nothing to do with it. When you say that we want to separate, that does not mean we want to live in isolation. It could mean that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. So when you say you don't want integration and you want self-determination, it means that you understand what is needed in order for you to build a solid foundation to create the kind of world that you envision, because you're about nation building. You see, and unless you understand that you must first create a foundation
that is going to support the ideas or the house that you're building, then you're really just spinning your wheels, because integration has created a facade of progress for us. This is what integration has done. If you understand the wheels on a car, this is a car system.
Okay.
And we know that regardless of the vehicle that you're driving, traditionally the car has 4 wheels.
Yes.
If you have 2 wheels in the back, 2 wheels in the front, what does it matter whether the car is traveling on a smooth road, a gravel road, up a hill or down a hill, or whether it's going 40 miles an hour or 140 miles an hour? By the design of that car, that back wheel will never catch up with that front wheel, whether it's going 40 miles an hour or 100 miles an hour. Integration has locked us into a false sense of progress, where we think that somehow if we get on a smooth road and we're the back wheel, that somehow if the car goes 100 miles per hour, that we are going to get ahead. That back wheel will never catch up with that front wheel. It's by design. The system of white supremacy has designed it that way. So no matter what little progress you think you got on the integration, that progress has not allowed you to become the front wheel. You have always been and still maintain the back wheel position. This is true even with our medical professionals who are catching hell in some of the hospitals today. Even with the brilliance that exists in our community, they still cannot make the kind of progress that they should be making within that system. Why? Because they're in the back wheel position and they don't know it.
Oh, I don't know what else to say. I mean, I could see it smoking in here. I mean, at least it's okay to piss people off because we are pissing them off. I mean, because we are making them mad with truth, and truth in itself. You can't deter truth. I noticed when you had mentioned about these holidays, like we coming into misgivings, and a lot of people that I'm around, they'll say, well, what you gonna be doing for Thanksgiving? I say, it's never Thanksgiving, it's misgivings. And it's misgivings because of the simple fact you never want to patronize the demise of a whole segment of humanity. I mean, when Christopher Colon or Christopher Columbus, whatever y'all want to call him at this particular time, when he came over and the indigenous Americans decided to show him how to live, how to eat, how to survive, what did he do? Amherst took and put smallpox virus into the blankets and gave that to the indigenous Americans. They raped, they killed. So just to say, oh, well, happy Thanksgiving, no, it's a misgivings because you never want to go ahead and celebrate the demise of humanity.
And sister, holidays are important for us to understand, because holidays are not just Thanksgiving. There are 2 things that take place when you celebrate holidays. One, there's an economic component to it.
Correct.
We run to all the stores and we buy all the turkeys, and turkeys don't have a chance. Ducks don't have a chance. Chicken don't have a chance, because we go up there and we buying all the turkeys and we buying all the chicken, right?
Yes.
And that's okay. That's okay if it's sustenance for our body. But there is an economic component. We don't own any of the stores. There is no economic reality to the food we consume and our economic relationship to the product in which we're purchasing from somebody else. So there has to be some understanding on our part. If we're going to eat all the turkey around, then let's sell some of them. Let's have stores. Let's have the kind of businesses in our community that service our needs or our appetite if we're going to have a holiday. So now, if we can celebrate Thanksgiving and we don't understand the historical reality of how Thanksgiving came about, then all we're doing, we're giving thanks to God. That's what we say. But on the day of Thanksgiving, just like many of the holidays, that's the days in which there's a spike in most domestic violence, there's a spike in alcohol-related incidents, there's a spike in the whole disturbance of the human family. So now, how could this be about God? How could this be about something wholesome? So now, when we don't understand that, then we become argumentative. We become defensive because somebody trying to take our Thanksgiving away. Somebody trying to kill us out of turkey. Somebody is trying to make us not enjoy ourselves. This is the kind of foolishness that I get from our people all the time. And if I sound like I'm a little impatient with our people, maybe somewhat a little bit, but
You have-
the reality of it is that I've come to to a comfortable place to know that some of our people, you can't teach them nothing at this point. You got to learn them. You know, and some of our people are not ready to hear the truth, because to hear the truth, that means they would have to make some changes in their relationship to their slave master. And it's part of a system that we have to adjust to in order to make some sense out of what we say are holidays.
Well, Brother Takuna, I want to thank you so much. We really appreciate the knowledge of you being our elder and continuously helping us out. And of course, we appreciate that, because believe it or not, we are going through these same incidents over and over again, and gotten to the point where, damn, I just wish I could just go somewhere and not have to deal with none of this idiotic BS. But we're going to give you the humanitarian award for the best outspoken activist in existence, and we need this. We need to commit. And I'm speaking with Brother Jay to either doing a segment once a month, even if we have like students in here that could ask the question. Where with the technology, you could put it on the Facebook, you could put it on the YouTube. It's there. We just need to do that. And I apologize for not in the beginning of the show for not giving credence to our ancestors, the shoulders that we stand on. Our Dr. Imaris, our sister Akila Mawusi Ali, our Nat Turner, our Malcolm X. I mean, these are the shoulders that we stand on.
Yes. Well, sister, let me say this. I don't know how much time we have, but I don't need but about 30 seconds. Part of the brother's question, that the caller's question, was in relationship to our elders. We need to be very clear that even though we love our elders, and elders are simply people that are older than us and supposed to have led a path for us to follow, the reality of what slavery has done to many of our elders, our elders are full of slavery teaching, and therefore they cannot connect with the youth as they should. Our youth are not necessarily guided correctly because there is the absence of the elders' guidance. So the elders sometimes blame the youth. And the thing is that though the youth are a product of us,
Yes.
and you don't like what your product looks like, then what role did you have in shaping that product? So we need to get off the youth. We need to get wise. We need to understand that many of these young people are misguided, but they're bold, they're brave, they're the best generation of black people that we have. And if our youth are going to learn anything different, if they're going to learn to respect the elders better, then the elders are going to have to humble themselves. They're going to have to put their pride aside, and they're going to have to go learn something different. They're going to have to listen to something different. They're going to have to read something different. Today, you have no excuse. If you can't read a word, you can watch a video. You can watch a CD. You can a DVD. You can listen to a CD. You can get the information some kind of way. But the elders today in the black community, their role has been flipped, nullified, or neutralized with the slavery teaching that's embedded in many of us. I love our elders. I'm president of CCBE, Conscious Council of Black Elders, and I say that sincerely, conscientious council of black elders, because all of our elders are not conscious. Many of them I love, many of them only respond to what they know, and we should respect that. But some of our elders know better, and they operate off of fear. And they pass that fear or that erroneous information, or they become agents of a blockage for our youth to grow and to expand. So the brother's question was relevant in the sense that our elders, although we want to respect them,
Right.
we have some work to do.
We have some work.
You see, we have some work to do. I cannot say in complete honesty that I can respect the advice that I was given from some of my elders. When I was 26 years old, I was called in by groups of black people that I thought were my elders. And the bulk of their conversation to me was to give me a course in Uncle Tom 101. You see, because of fear, because of the ingrained slavery teaching that has been, saddled on the backs of black people. Now, I know I cannot leave this show just by taking at least 10 seconds to say, black I am, Cajun, Creole I'm not. Black people, Cajun and the N-word, historically, it's the same. You are being duped with the concept of Creole. Creole is white folks giving you a culture that represents a cousin to them because they don't want you to relate to your black and African self. As long as you deny your history, as long as you deny your culture, there will be no economic building in our community. There will be no spiritual togetherness in our community. There will be no social change or development in our community. You cannot defy what God made you historically and culturally and expect God to bless you on these other levels. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Ooh. All right. Well, then thank you so much. We really are pleased. We're going to have Brother Takuna. We're going to try to do a segment, Brother Takuna, if not once a month, once every other month, because we need to keep the flowing. And we want to thank you from the bottom of our heart. Much love, my brother.
Thank you for having me.
Much love. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, yes, yes.